we're pleased to welcome now the former congressman who represented Mississippi's 3rd District, Gregg Harper. Congressman, good to see you, sir.
Man, it's so good to be here, and it's a great day to be an American.
It certainly is. We were just analyzing the results offline here. So, Rhino, help us out here. Looks like Arizona has been called. Is the AP called that, Fox, or how's that coming in right now? Who's made the call for Trump?
I don't see it called by the AP, so it's likely Fox and Decision Desk. They tend to be the first two to call.
So does that leave Nevada as the only outstanding state with respect to the Fox Decision Desk? And I think the 2 states still outstanding as far as the AP is concerned.
Yeah, and you do still have like 40% of the vote in California left to be counted, so the popular vote totals could change. But as far as the electoral, we're just waiting on the finalization of Arizona and Nevada.
Anything that surprised you, Congressman?
Just that we've got Trump carrying states that we're losing the Senate race in narrowly. And so I haven't had a chance to look at those numbers. You may have, but there's got to be undervotes. There's got to be people that came in, voted for Trump. I don't think they would have just voted for Trump and then voted for the Democratic person for the Senate. I think they may have voted for Trump and left.
Michigan and Wisconsin specifically.
So we'll look
Nevada
and see.
Possibly,
look and see what those numbers later. But we've at this point we're at 52 in the Senate, and we've only got one that's left to be called. Yeah, and right now we've got a narrow lead, but we'll just have to kind of see how that all plays out.
Huge pickup in Pennsylvania if Mike McCormick can keep that narrow lead going for him right now.
I know.
That would be huge. Casey, honestly, stands for everything I don't stand for.
See, I thought the last couple of weeks Casey was a big Trump supporter.
Well, he tried to edge that way, did he not?
Never mind that he never voted with him in the 4 years Trump was in office. But wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
But, of course, flipped a big seat. The senior senator from Ohio, Gerard Brown, went down.
And a lot of people didn't think that would be possible going in. And we thought, look, the best we thought we could do would be to pick up the gift in West Virginia and then hopefully hold the line in Montana and win that one. And we did, but we still got a little bit more room. We really disappointed we didn't win in Nevada and Wisconsin. We had great candidates in those states, and we're now just sitting here waiting for an official call in Pennsylvania, which I've got. Looking at the numbers, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. It just depends on what precincts are outstanding in such a purple state as Pennsendania. But we're at 99% in, I think, or something like that.
It's way up, at least, in the 97, 98, 99%. There's not a lot of room there, and we're just assuming that they don't mysteriously find some. Oh gosh, we forgot to count these boxes.
The AP has 99% and Dave McCormick is leading by roughly 21,000 votes, total 6.8 million cast. So that is the narrowest of margins. 48.94 to 48.49.
That's stunning, isn't it? It's stunning.
I think that's a clear reflection of the polarity that exists across the nation.
Well, it certainly, and I'm still going to say, as we look at this and analyze what's there, I think we'll wind up seeing that the abortion issue was probably what cost us a couple of those Senate races there.
Could be.
Because, you had, Brown in Nevada classified himself as pro-life with exceptions for, rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And the Republicans, I have to say, every issue was with us in this election cycle, except nationally the abortion issue, and the Republicans' decision as a party basically not to address it. We just kind of said, well, let's just not talk about it. And I think that was a tactical error when you look. We've got to be able to explain why the life of the unborn child really matters and be able to come forth with that and give it, make an argument, give a case as unemotional as you can on a very emotional issue, but it certainly is the moral issue of our generation, and we still got a lot of work to do. And of course, they utilize a lot of the misstatements of, look, Roe v. Wade's been overturned. You're not going to be able. There are more abortions since Roe v. Wade was overturned than before. The rate of.
It was fear-mongering.
And that's what they do, and our folks just have a hard time going beyond the 30-second soundbite.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like to a great extent that Republicans, we were discussing this at the RNC, it have sort of shunned the issue altogether. It really does. Now, there were a number of ballot measures, as you know, that voters cast ballots on Tuesday at the state level, and I think that the pro-choice oriented measures won perhaps in every state. One of the Dakotas had one where it was defeated.
Yeah, and Florida, of course.
Florida, because of the 60% threshold. So it got more than 50%, but it fell short of the 60% threshold.
But, I had got to serve with DeSantis in the House, and I'll say this, he was all in on trying to defeat that initiative.
Sure was.
And if he hadn't been, I think it might have gotten 60%. Outcome. So hats off to him for fighting that fight.
Yeah. But it didn't have the impact on the presidential election that I think the Democrats sort of relied on.
Yeah.
I mean, their entire campaign was built on, it felt like abortion and Donald Trump's a fascist. That was pretty much the message.
Yeah. I feel like we probably should fill out a missing persons report for Tim Walz. Was he still the nominee for vice president down the stretch? I don't remember seeing him anywhere.
I wonder if somebody woke up and figured out this guy's not helping us when he's out on the campaign trail.
Yeah, was he in the basement in Delaware just as a house guest?
I just don't know.
But really, I thought when you're the nominee of the party, you really only have one key decision to make, and that's who your running mate's going to be.
Yeah.
And Trump nailed it, and I think Harris, that just didn't help her a bit. And
Poor choice.
The vice presidential debate was an absolute disaster for the Democrats. It was. I mean, you almost felt a little sorry. Well, not that sorry, but anyway, it was not a great performance by Walz that night.
You've been in the ring there. You better be on your game.
Yeah.
And Walz just he demonstrated he didn't have a game more than anything else. I mean, he just didn't. Certainly not to be a candidate for the second highest office in the country.
Well, I served with him the entire 10 years I was there. He was in the House, and he would have been viewed probably a little bit more moderate in the House. But that guy didn't run for governor.
Not as a governor.
My gosh. I mean, nobody transitioned that quickly from being semi-reasonable, moving all the way over to this far left. He would have gone further left, but there must have been a wall there, and he had to stop for a minute. And he's probably more liberal than Kamala Harris.
I know. He's out there. So were you aware that Trump carried his home county in Minnesota?
Stunning. And really, what they do, miss Minnesota by just a few points, 3 or 4 points.
That would have been
home state, which would have been
a day of reckoning.
It would have been hysterical for sure. So
it's fairly blue is Minnesota, but when you're a governor and you lose your home county, what does that say?
Well, that's not a pretty picture, and I think it definitely shows that people are not as into him as he probably thought. So
I mean, even Walter Mondale carried his home state of Minnesota when he ran against Ronald Reagan, who carried 49,
and his home county.
County. It's incredible. All right, so let's speaking of the House, let's talk about the House. We looks like we got the Senate. We got one seat. We're either going to have 51 or 52, or 52 or 53.
Yeah.
We flipped 3. So we're either going to have 52 or 53.
We know we got 52 in the bank right now. We're hoping 53 with Pennsylvania. And the House, going in, I just was really nervous. I basically would have said it's a coin toss and did say that, but I kind of thought the Republicans had a chance to hang on to it. But it boiled down to a number of key races. New York, those that were Republican seats in New York, California, and 2 in Iowa. 1 in Iowa won easily, but Congresswoman Miller Meeks in Iowa is still ahead.
Yeah.
Not by much. I mean, like 700-800 votes, the last thing that I saw. But go back 4 years ago, she won that House seat by 6 votes. 6 votes.
6 votes.
6 votes in a congressional district.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is still exhibiting optimism for what that's worth.
I think we've got more to talk about, and I'm very optimistic of what I'm seeing right now.
If you can hang on,
Love
we can
to.
continue this discussion into another segment. We've got former Congressman Gregg Harper. He's our guest. We're at 2 Mississippi museums. Come by and see us if you're in the area. You got to tour these museums, folks. They are incredible. Stay with us. We're coming right back. Today we're enjoying our discussion with former Congressman Gregg Harper. So we were chatting about the House before we went to break, and I just mentioned that, of course, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson continues to be optimistic about the outcome there. Congressman, you served in the House, served Mississippi's 3rd District there. How does it different when you're governing in the House with 435 members, when you got this really small delta versus a big delta? And many of those members who get elected in their district, even though perhaps the presidential race went in a different direction, that's extremely sensitive to those members, especially when they know they're going to be on the ballot in 2 years.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, the last time I ran for re-election was 2016. I had not even served quite 8 years, and that was my 11th time on the ballot. So, it's a different world. You're never not campaigning, because when you're back home, you're speaking to groups and you're doing things. But I can tell you this, the worst position you want to be in is in the minority in the United States House of Representatives. It's awful.
What do you guys do when you're in the minority? I hear they do a lot of nothing.
No, it's easy. You vote no. You show up and vote no, and try to do a little blocking and tackling where you can, but you have no control. Committee funding is 2/3 for the majority, 1/3 for the minority, and it matters on all your committee stuff. And because if you're in the majority, you go to the minority, you're going to lose a lot of your staff because you're not going to have the money in the budget.
True. Yeah.
So it's a real problem.
Well, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That the funding worked that way.
It does,
okay.
And it's
big
not a good thing. When I was in my first term, we were in the minority, and when the chairman of the committee I was on suggested to the minority or to the ranking member, look, we've got some extra money in the budget. Why don't we just remodel, redecorate all the offices? Because they knew they were going to the minority offices the next time, and so you could that would say, okay, that's a good sign. But right now, look, one race that I've kept my eyes on from the very beginning is Ken Calvert in California.
Okay.
And he's a great guy. Served with him, and that race in September, I was at a dinner with him and a number of other members, and he said his opponent was spending $20 million one congressional race. He was going to have to spend about 10. And
wow.
The last thing that I saw on
for
that,
one district of 750,000 people.
now today, last time I checked, with somewhat of also a lack of as much sleep because you're so consumed by all this stuff, reading it is Thursday. And I know it's California, but if that's such a great place, why have they only counted 76% of the votes in that congressional district? So Ken is ahead right now, 51.4 to 48.6, but that only translates to about 7,000 votes. So it's not over, but he's held the lead. Now, he was behind early on, but Ken's one of those. It's an incumbent that's one of the pickoff seats that the Democrats were looking for. So I'd keep my eyes on that. But right now, the word is that we're probably going to maybe gain a seat or two.
Wow.
When it's all over with.
Well, last I looked, we had flipped 2 more than they had, I believe. And if that trend holds on, that's about the way it'd work out.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're actually, I think what I saw was +4.
Okay.
And so that they've lost a total of 4, we've gained a total of 4. So that's a good thing. And you really, the last thing that President Trump needs after he's would have to deal with the Republicans being in the minority in the House. So for him to be able to do what he's going to need to do, what the country's going to need, we just need to hold on to this. And I think there are probably 35, 36, 37 House races that still haven't been called.
Right.
And so we only need to pick up about 12 of those. And I think we're on track to do that. But it's depends on who you ask, but we feel cautiously optimistic we're going to maintain that. Tuesday night, as you know, Mike Johnson, Steve Scalise, I don't know if any other members, they hopped on the jet, got there just in time to walk on the stage with the president-elect. And it's just there's an excitement. But you got to, as we know, holding the office Republican Speaker of the House of Representatives has not provided a lot of longevity, lately, or who's going to get it. So, I'll tell you, Mike Johnson's one of the finest people.
He is.
I know you've met him.
Yeah.
He's exceptional. The man loves the Lord. He's religious freedom issues. He's tops. He keeps his calm in an environment where you don't know how you can. But he's going to have to make sure that you can't deal with the tail waggers caucus, and we've got a few members that are there, and I think Trump is and Johnson have really become very close.
Seems like it,
and I'd find it hard to believe that the sitting president of the United States can't get a couple of them in a headlock if he needs to.
Fix that friction.
Say, if you're for me, you're going to be for him, and I think we're going to hold the House. I think Mike Johnson may not be easy, but I think he will get reelected in the next Congress to continue to be the Speaker. And we need a little stability in that, and we need people just to kind of, okay, maybe you're not going to always be happy, but you do have a group of people, as you know, that they don't care if the trains run on time. They just want to be famous on the news and raise money online. Well, that's not how you should be running the House.
Yeah.
And so fortunately, there's a whole lot more that want to run the trains on time, and those are the ones you want to see come in. Ken Calvert's one of those, and just a solid member. David Valadeo is in a majority Hispanic district, and he gets reelected every time. It's never by a huge margin, but those are the kind of members that really make it, I think, a great institution. And I'm thankful for my own Congressman, Michael Guest, and I hope he enjoyed not having anybody. He didn't have even an independent on the ballot, so congratulations. I think our votes, the votes we made on Tuesday put him over the top,
I know one person that was pretty happy about that situation, and that would be the congressman's wife, Haley.
Oh, my gosh, no kidding. Well, on the 11 times we were on the ballot, I don't remember ever being unopposed. So I'm thankful that he's there doing a great job.
I am too. They're great friends,
and look
too.
at Senator Wicker. Now going to be chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. That's monumental, not just for Mississippi, but for the country. And Senator Wicker understands the national defense issues and the Navy, the sea power issues as well as anybody I've ever run across. And so it's an exciting time. Cindy Hyde-Smith,
might get tapped by the president to be a member of the cabinet.
Would she take the job as ag commissioner? I mean, as the Secretary of Agriculture? Certainly, she's qualified.
I think she would.
But we'll see what happens. I love having her as our senator, and she would be one of the subcommittee chairs on appropriations, which is also monumental for Mississippi.
All right, so a couple of minutes left. You've been in this position before. Let's say that Republicans run the table, got the trifecta. The expectations are going to be high.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be looking for action.
Yeah.
But you got the 60-vote filibuster, of course, in the Senate that precludes lots of non-fiscal legislation from passing, honestly. So what can you say about that?
Well, you can already tell from all the amount of Kleenex and tissue that's being used by our friends on the other side. It's just, I don't know how they're going to have to go in for therapy as you've commented already. So I think the difference here is probably nobody going in really thought Trump was going to beat Hillary, and there was a lag time getting things set up. There's no doubt Trump is the man right now. He's the guy. I guarantee you, before Thanksgiving, he will know every person that's going to be on his cabinet, almost every one of them. And Mike Pompeo, as you know, is also somebody I served with in the House. He's one of the finest people, graduated first in West Point. Great guy, CIA director and Secretary of State. I would think he will be highly in the running for Secretary of Defense. So if he starts populating the cabinet with that type person, we're going to be in a really good place.
He's really good. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas was thought to possibly be a prospect for that as well. He announced this morning he's not interested.
I would much rather have Tom Cotton there to fight the fight
in the Senate.
In the Senate.
I agree.
And such a great guy as well. And I'm hopeful that we'll see some really top-notch folks come in. Of course, I'd love to see if they could allow Cindy Hyde-Smith to be the secretary and the senator. Do you think they'd allow that at the same time?
I don't think it works that way. But
little conflict there.
I think it's a strong possibility that he does tap Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith to come on board and be his secretary. I really do.
I think I really think it's going to be hers to turn down.
Yeah.
But I love her in the role as the senator. But it should be good to have her in the cabinet as well. So she's campaigned, as you know, all over the country the last few weeks
with the president.
With the president.
Yeah. Congressman, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you being here with us. Yep.
Always a pleasure. Thank you,
sir. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. We're at 2 Mississippi museums today. Come by and see us. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.